Attention listeners, ahead are spoilers.
Hello, and welcome to the Movie Trap. My name is Russell Carlson, and with me is Chris Boroff.
I don't remember any lines from this movie. I'm just going to say, racist, racist, I'm a bad person from Britain.
Okay, there you go. Right. There you go. And also with me is Zach Powers.
This is a friendship between opposites.
Welcome on the Movie Trap. Each of us pick a theme. Well, one of us picks a theme, and then each of us watch a movie and pick a movie based off that theme. After we've done watching all three movies, we then vote. Whichever movie wins the vote, that host gets to pick the next theme, except not this time, or the last time. This is Zach's reward movie for the Halloween round, which he won for Trick or Treat, and that is his bonus
We've
movie.
had some production problems, which is why this is coming out several months after Halloween.
That's right, yeah, that's right. Well, we had to do the Christmas one, and anyway. So anyway, here we are at last. Zach finally gets to reap his reward and inflict a movie upon us with no consequences. There's no voting, there's no points, there's barely any notes. We just watch the movie. And Zach has chosen 2021, 2022, I'm confused about the release date, RRR, which is a action musical sort of thing. That's the best way I could describe it. And I am glad that I do not have Zach Powers' job for summarizing this movie, because it is a long one. So folks, buckle up and let Zach do the conducting.
RRR is indeed 2022 is what we're going to go with. Indian film. It is sort of a historical action drama, I guess, directed by S.S. Rajmouli. I apologize for any mispronunciations. I am, if you were just listening, couldn't tell from my voice, I am not an Indian man or Indian woman. I am not an Indian person in any regard. But I will do my best. No offense intended for mispronunciation.
I think it's a blanket one for all of us on this one, guys.
I'm pretty sure you got that name okay. I've heard that name a couple times. I think you got that one.
Rajmouli, yeah. It stars N.T. Rajarao Jr., Ram Charan, a few others, people here in the West, which I assume is the main audience for this podcast, if we have one, may be familiar with Ray Stevenson and Allison Doody, who have been in, major Western films in the past and feature in this movie as well. It tells the story. RRR, I should say, to start, stands for Rise, Roar, Revolt, but kind of stands for more than that. We'll get into that later. It is set during the period in which India was a British colony. British colonial India starts in the 1920s with two absurdly villainous English colonialists, Scott Buxton and his wife Catherine. Are in India in an Indian forest. They abduct a very young girl, and they trick her into becoming sort of their house servant through a lack of understanding of languages, and then brutalize her mother, and the tribe to which she belongs, their sort of guardian, Karam Beam, takes it upon himself to rescue this young girl. He makes it sort of his life's work. And he heads to Delhi under the guise of a Muslim man named Akhtar. Meanwhile, Raj, who is an Indian man who is serving the British colonialist empire, is sort of in the middle of a major riot against an outpost, a British outpost, One particular rioter offends the head of the outpost, and he is told to collect that man, and he fights 400 people to grab this guy and bring him back, noting him a little bit of a distinction among the British Crown, the British soldiers there. So as things move on, we find that eventually Raj is tasked with trying to find this actor, this fellow who is Beam, who has been causing problems for the British Empire. He needs to be brought to justice, and Raj is given the task of bringing him in. Raj desperately wants to sort of make this elite guard in the British Empire. I don't remember exactly what it's called, but functionally it's like the top tier of the British soldiers there.
You get a fancy red jacket.
Yeah, it's like the stormtroopers in this context. Like the
Yes.
This. I think it would be safe to suggest this is a melodrama to a degree.
But regardless, he's been passed over for this position despite having heavily earned it because of racism, and he is given this assignment to bring in Beam on the pretense that if he does this, he will become. Here it is. He'll become a member of the Imperial Police, I believe they're called. So he goes undercover to try and find Beam, and begins in Delhi, showing pictures around, asking people if they've seen this person, pretending to be sympathetic to the Indian independence movement. Eventually, through a few connections, through a few different people, I'm going to speed through this as a long movie. He does accidentally run into Beam. There is we are also kind of skipping over the moment where we show Beam fighting a tiger and a wolf in the forest to save some of his people. Big action sequence there. But later in Delhi, they encounter each other unintentionally when there is a major train wreck and a young boy is in danger of death. The two of them have a spectacular action sequence in which they save this young boy from the flaming debris of the train and quickly become friends.
This is when the title shows up, correct? Like 40
Yes.
minutes in, they actually finally show RRR.
Yes, this is about 40 minutes in. They become close. They become invited to a British royal wedding, and Beam is immediately infatuated with Jenny, the cousin of the two main antagonists who abducted Molly in the opening of the film. They attend this wedding. Beam is more of a shy, reluctant guy, and Raj teaches him to come out of his shell and stand up to a snobby British dude through a big wedding dance. They do a dance off. They do a step up to the streets, and they put this guy in his place. Afterwards, Raj kind of sets up this situation where Jenny's car blows a flat so that Beam can have a romantic evening with her. But shortly thereafter, Beam realizes that Molly is indeed on this compound where they went to the wedding, where Jenny is living, and resolves to free Molly, obviously, his life's goal. Give me a second.
Do you need a drink?
I just need to figure out where. I got to figure out where I am in the narrative here. It's a long movie.
It's a long one, and a lot happens.
Yeah. So he attempts to infiltrate. He finds the room where Molly is being held. At the same time, Raj discovers that Beam is the fellow that he's been searching for. And they sort of have this big confrontation. Again, I'm breezing through this movie. It's a long movie. It's a good movie, but it's a long movie. And there's a huge confrontation at the palace, inevitably, involving...
They're throwing around, what have you, different beasts of the forest. tossing
Tigers are being
at men.
thrown.
Yes. And
Yes,
all
yes.
digital tigers too. It's completely every animal's digital because it is I believe that's a Hindu thing. You are supposed to be nice to animals.
Yeah, it's a big party held in the honor of the big colonializer, Ray Stevenson. Scott is the character's name. And Beam, having told Raj who he is after saving his life from a snake attack, crashes it. And Raj comes after him, desperately wanting to fulfill his life goal of becoming this Imperial Guard. And there is a huge action sequence with tigers being thrown around and fountains being destroyed and fire and everything you can imagine. Ultimately ending with Beam being apprehended by Raj. And a violent betrayal of the trust of this really great friendship. They spent a lot of time being the best possible friends up to this point in the movie. We find that, Raj is captured. And this brings us to the interval, as best I can remember. After which we sort of get a little bit of backstory on Raj, who we learn as a young boy, his village was assaulted by the British, killing his entire family, his father teaching him, to fight and shoot in his dying days. It's a lengthy backflash, but his entire family is killed by the British. They manage to barely fend them off, and Raj manages to survive. And they concoct this plan that if Raj can get into the higher echelons of the British army, he can divert guns to Indian tribes to fight off the British Empire. And that is, in fact, what he's been working for this whole time. Not the British Empire itself, but as a double agent to destroy them. And even at the cost of his friendship with Beam, he has been pursuing this goal single-mindedly. Beam, now imprisoned, is brought forth for a public flogging. An attempt to make him sort of a Braveheart scene where they're trying to make him be like, he renounces what he believed before. He sings as he is being flogged horribly. And the crowd rebels eventually at his breaking point. When he is finally brought to his knees, the crowd breaks through the barricades and tries to storm the place. They bring Beam back, but Raj, having sort of had a change of heart, eventually manages to manipulate things to a position where he, with the help of a man who gives Beam a razor to cut through his bonds in the police trolley, he elects to save Beam's life instead of go through with his plan to get the guns to the people he needs. But it reveals him to be a traitor to the Buxtons, to the British. And now we find that Raj is the one who is imprisoned. Beam eventually comes upon Raj's village and learns all of Raj's backstory, that he was an anti-colonialist attempting to bring guns to the people of India, that all he did was in the name of Indian independence, and says, well, then I am going to save my friend. And with the help of Jenny, the woman he met earlier, he manages to break into this prison where Raj is being held in a sort of Cool Hand Luke-esque, solitary confinement cell. He pulls him out, and they escape from the prison, following which there is a major fight in a forest where they're hiding out with a bunch of British colonialist soldiers, where they kill a ton of them. And they decide to take the fight to the Buxtons, to Scott, and they storm his sort of palace, throwing flaming motorcycles and the like, causing all kinds of explosions. The explosions kill Scott's wife, Catherine, and eventually Scott himself is trapped without recourse. And recalling an earlier speech that Scott gave about how a bullet is worth more than the life of an Indian man, they shoot Scott in the heart. And it seems as though Raj is reunited with his love, and Beam reunited with Jenny, and everything seems very happy with the conclusion. And then there is a lengthy extra narrative dance sequence to conclude the film, in which all the principal characters dance. Yeah, exactly so.
Including the director. He just
up.
pops up at one point.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah, Molly is saved. And they, in a post-credit sequence, they resume their friendship as, the bestest of pals.
And freedom reigned over India until this day.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, it's quite a it's a block. I mean, the movie's for sure. It's a chunk of movie. It's you gotta delve into the whole slice. Bring your silverware. You really gotta cut into it.
It doesn't go slow. It's it's about as packed as.
Yep.
Oh man, it feels a little bit like a Marvel movie, just in terms of the fact that there is never enough time to really slow down and hang out. It just keeps happening.
See, I compared it more to like an anime, where everything is so almost like it's so not real. It's just go with it, or like John Woo movies, right? Everything's very elevated. It's
there's. Yeah, I'll say, in terms of, so a lot of the sequences we talked about, the plot, it is a dense plot. Things move quickly, but also, describing it just as a narrative, a strict narrative, you can move past big chunks of the story quickly because, when I say they save a boy from a train, or there's a dance at a wedding, or there's a fight at this celebration honoring Buxton. Those are 5-10 minute long sequences that are dance or fight sequences that are very heavily choreographed. They're big sequences,
massive in scale.
Well, it's one of those. It's like
plot wise, they're not huge if you're just telling a story, but they are spectacles. And I will say, when you say John Woo versus Marvel movies, this is much more in the John Woo camp. These are not CGI fest. There's a little bit of CGI, but there's a lot of practical choreography going on in these sequences.
Yeah. When I say that this movie was melodramatic, that normally would be a criticism, but in this case, it's just the mode of the movie. It's so far to an extreme, you can never really take it seriously 100% because they're literally throwing tigers at people to solve fights and things like that. And, there's a whole sequence in which there's the sitting on the shoulders, going John Woo with two guns.
There's Avenger Brothers.
This is interesting. I think
folks.
One of the things about this is movie making in the West. I think this movie's earnestness and its willingness to be earnest, and the fact that it actually made a splash worldwide, not just in India, though in India this was the
1000%.
biggest fucking thing. Reveals something about the cynicism, I think, like the self-reflective nature of Western movies. Where everything is like wink wink nudge nudge, isn't this silly? And this movie is like, no, we're gonna be earnest. And it was refreshing to me a little bit to see a movie that wasn't like again, I know I have this Marvel movie thing, but everything that happens in a Marvel movie, like, they have to wink at the camera and be like, isn't it
You don't think
ridiculous?
there was any of that in this movie, though? I think there was a ton of that in this movie.
I think there was far less.
There's a ton of, like, it's a movie and we're having
every
fun,
Marvel
like,
movie has 6 minutes where, like, they say, my name is fucking whatever comic book name it is, and they're like, what a ridiculous name. Oh, are you kidding me? These guys are fucking jumping on each other's shoulders and having the best time and having a fucking wedding dance. And it's not a joke. Like, I don't think it's meant to be a joke.
But I do think that it's meant to be, there is a bit of tongue-in-cheek into it. Like, when, like, the whole scene, even everybody's a remarkable badass, right? Like, everybody's, like, just, even Buxton, like, does a whole, like, jump up with the car and does, like, the John Woo thing and shooting in midair anime shit. So that to me, you don't think that's a little bit of a...
No, I think you were right. This is an anime, and those animes generally are not, I don't think, trying to be, like... Some of them are. Obviously, it's a broad spectrum of it's a medium that has a broad spectrum, but I think genuinely, like, a lot of times, like, this movie is trying to express big emotion, big emotional moment, big action moments, and it's not trying to do it in a way that, like, is so jaded as a lot of Western movies are.
I think I agree with Zach on this, because it feels operatic in style.
For sure.
Like, everything is so heightened beyond reality that it's, like, I don't think this movie would be watched in a way where people would be critical. It really strongly feels to me reminiscent of Braveheart or, like, The Patriot. Like, what we're seeing, we can
or
get
even
into
most
a little
Westerns.
Bit. Yeah, well,
and
part of this is that it's getting into. It was interesting for me to watch this because it's an example of patriotic style filmmaking that you can kind of see why and how it works in America versus over there. Like, if you see the movie Pearl Harbor, no one ever stops and goes, "Isn't it wild? We're in a movie about Pearl Harbor." They're all too busy, like, dating Ben Affleck and, like, flying planes and shit. And they just take it super self-serious. The whole movie is super self-serious. This one's nice because there's a dance number that happens that evidently was released almost a year before the actual movie came out. Like, it cannot be overstated how popular and obsessed the crowd involved.
We'll have to talk about this movie, and because this is like we've never covered an Indian movie on the show before.
Very
and
true.
The Indian film industry is interesting in and of itself. But
many shades of color, of color. Just like,
I think that the key is this, like, if you see footage of people, like, watching this movie in India, there's none of, like, the, like, sort of wry, self-knowing humor shit that you get all throughout the Marvel movies. People are just amped. They just love to see, like, these guys being fucking badasses and these crazy dance sequences. Like, it's not people being like, oh, well, we know the language of film, and oh, this is very clever. It's just people enjoying it. Like, there's none of that, I don't know, removal that I think is very common maybe in Western movies.
well, but it's it's the type of movie that it is. It's a fun action movie, musical melodrama. I mean, it's 3 hours long. It fucking better be fun. In a way, I agree with you, where most Western audiences are interested in navel gazing and sort of just, liking what they like and being into that. But I do think that this film, what it is similar with the Marvel movies is its lack of subtlety. There's no subtle moment. I mean, the whole scene where they rescue the little boy from the exploding train. I mean, they literally rescue him with an Indian flag. I mean, that's that right there. I mean, if we did that in the West, if we tried to have George Washington like swinging under to save Betsy Ross or whatever, like we would.
But Marvel,
we would laugh our ass off.
I don't think Marvel movies could even attempt that. I think that there is a sense with this movie that the people who made it with a degree of passion and belief that I think if we tried to buy that, like, the Disney Corporation was making Guardians of the Galaxy 4 with that same kind of genuine earnesty, like, we'd know it's false. Like,
well, there's also... Like, I have a feeling that they couldn't do anything really biting with these characters because they're also very important political historical figures
who never met, as far as we know, in real life.
Yeah, they never met. This was like
their biographies
fan
seem
fiction.
Pretty different too.
Yeah.
This is historical fan fiction.
Yeah, but it is kind of crazy because for me, the entire time I was watching it, I knew that none of the characters were going to die. So it was also like a Marvel movie for me, because of the fact that, like, when you go see the Incredible Hulk, you never really think the Incredible Hulk's going to die. Like, when I went and saw, like, the first Avenger, whatever it was, Captain America, like, I didn't think he was going to die in the whole movie. I was like, okay, he's going to go to sleep. No one's going to really kill him. So whenever he was in danger, it's like, okay, I get it. The movie's just doing its thing. So that was something for me that was a little strange. Like, there's a lot of, like, sort of, like, oh, he's being tortured so bad. And it does make you hate the British Royals, which I'm fine with.
What?
I actually
That's
really
probably
enjoy
the more realistic part of the movie is how monstrous the British Empire was.
And I love the movie's willingness to just make these such irredeemable villains.
Well, yeah, and just such like classic cartoony British bad guys, like
there's no dimension to these villains. They're just sadistically cruel all of the time.
Right. But in a civilized manner. So it's
The other thing I think we should probably mention, and I can't really speak to it much, but this is also very focused on Hindu religion. And
could we table that for a second?
We can.
Because I did
want to bring up what you were bringing. I did want to kind of talk about, because Zach and I kind of talked about this idea of using like historical fan fiction as a kind of mode in movies, and even the director himself brought up Inglourious Basterds.
We almost have our cup runneth over with things to talk about with this movie.
Right? Yeah. Well, it's a long movie, and it's a meaty movie.
Yeah, we did talk about
so
the
like
Inglourious
Bastards. Even the director himself, I read, like kind of based a little bit. He was shocked at the end of Inglourious Basterds. Spoiler alert for that movie. Hitler dies at the end before, unlike what
before he died
in real life. Right. He's actually killed in a theater, which never happened. But
spoiler alert for real life, Hitler is dead.
Right, that's true. Thank God. Though that's why but I kind of get why that kind of shook him, because it kind of shook me too when I watched Inglourious. Like, it's a bold thing to do, like to just be so blasé about history when you're doing historical
Tarantino has
figures.
done this with the last 3 movies he made.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's say with like Django or Hateful Eight, like that's not really historical.
Well, not Hateful Eight.
Stuff,
I should have skipped that one.
Like,
but Once Upon a Time in Hollywood,
for sure, and
Django and Inglourious Basterds.
I don't think Django's anything really history, though. I think Django's just a
Calvin Candy's not a real person, but it's the same idea.
I guess it's more like just trying to do another Western. I think he's just trying to do a Western.
But this movie, one of the ways I thought about this movie was like, what if you made a movie where Nat Turner and John Brown became best friends?
Right.
And they just killed 1 billion slave owners.
I mean, I would love that.
It was them against the Confederate Army. I think it'd be awesome. Sign me up. I think it'd be great. Man. So that's why I do appreciate, I didn't know that. I went into this movie totally blind. I mean, I've heard a lot about it because, as Zach said, I mean, it's been very much popular and everybody has been talking about it. So I went into completely blind, and then I watched it, and then I learned that these two were actually kind of real people, although they never met in real life, and a lot of their biographies very, very different. But still, I like the idea. And again, not subtle. You can't, if you're going to be that blasé with history, you almost can't be subtle, because then it kind of ruins the mystique, the vibe of it that you're trying to do. It lifts the veil a little too much if you're too kind of wry navel gazing that Marvel tends to be. You kind of break the spell if you do that. So that's why I think you have to be committed to the bit almost for this movie. You have to be in order for it to work. You
can't in this movie do a well, that happened. That's the kind of thing that's
for sure
all over the place in Marvel movies.
Right. And
it's just, this movie is no, we're not going to do that for a minute.
Yeah. It's
they don't have
entertaining. It was very funny.
And I don't think they want to.
Well, this one
I think they wanted to. Yeah, they want to play it straight as possible for a very over the top. And the Indian film industry is different. Those movies are different bigger and more bombastic, and the sensibilities are different.
They tend to be longer too. This one's not a Bollywood movie. This one, I believe we went into detail. This is a Tollywood movie.
It is a Tollywood movie.
Yeah, but Bollywood movies historically have been 4 hours long. So this one's actually pretty brief.
And
but it's been strange kind of seeing different people that I know. This just got played at the Directors Guild of America out here. So yesterday or the day before, my Twitter feed just turned into a wall of people talking about RRR. And it was interesting because everybody was almost universally positive about it. And it's odd to me because it's such a heightened film, and for me I kind of responded to it, but not quite that intensely. I was just oh, okay, it's a movie. But other people are acting like it really has changed their view of things or something like that.
Well, let me talk about something, I guess briefly, that I was going to mention, since we're still kind of in the Marvel comparison space, and we brought up Tarantino, so that feeds in well. So maybe a month and a half ago, there was a semi-controversy, as these things happen, where whenever a famous director talks about the MCU and says anything, people freak the fuck out. And Tarantino said something about how there were not movie stars anymore. There were IPs. That's the main thing that exists and sells and moves. And there was a whole controversy about that. This movie, and in India, there are very much still movie stars. And these two dudes who star in this movie are the biggest fucking deal in India. They're huge, and they had never worked together prior to this movie. And additionally, the guy who directed this movie also majorly huge in India. And when this movie was called RRR during production, it wasn't for Rise, Roar, Revolt. It was for these three dudes' names: Rajamouli, Ramal Rao Jr., and Ram Charan. That's what it stood for. RRR. These three guys, the biggest stars, are working together. And it's, very interesting. That was the sound. This is not a pre-existing product. Obviously, the historical figures are the historical figures, but the selling point of this movie was these are the biggest fucking names in India, movie stars in a way that I think Tarantino's right. We don't quite have in America anymore. Maybe Tom Cruise is the last holdout, but
George
anybody,
Clooney, Julia Roberts, those kind of people.
Clooney barely makes anything anymore.
He doesn't care.
Even then, people like Clooney, there are people who are alive who were this for a time. Jack Nicholson was this for a time, but you ask a 16, 17-year-old kid, half of them don't know who the fuck Jack Nicholson is. He doesn't matter. His it's that era of true movie star is more or less dead.
I kind of feel a part of that is just that everyone's too accessible now. like it.
I agree.
You know, you don't have the same level
Well,
of only seeing them when they're on the screen or on a giant movie screen. You'll
Yeah,
instead
I think
have a
it's
constant
different.
feed of everything happening.
I think that's part of it. That's definitely part of it. Like you know too much about them as people and all that stuff. It's too intimate, but at the same time, like the mystery's gone a little bit. But I think also part of it is indeed like the way that the American film industry now runs is like IPs are the selling point. Like there is no
correct.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Like the people in the movie don't matter. The IP matters.
I mean, those days will come back. I have no doubt. I mean, they still try, but nowadays the avenues of releasing are both voluminous and limited at the same time. Like that Gray Man movie, right? That's got the Russo brothers and Chris Evans and fucking, Ryan Gosling. And
that's a
shit.
perfect
and
example.
And it's relegated
no
to
one
Netflix,
gives a
nobody
fuck.
gives a shit. Yeah, exactly. So like,
and those are the biggest names in the MCU.
Right.
If they don't do it inside the IP, it doesn't.
Nobody gives
count.
a shit.
Who
It's
gives
true.
A shit?
It's extremely true. And then even when you've got established directors, like we were talking like with Guillermo del Toro, right? Like when he does an established IP, he's very, very successful. But when he does his own stuff, unless it's like Oscar bait, like Shape of Water and shit like that, like it's hard to find an audience for that anymore. Part of that is availability. Part of it is just audiences suck. I think that when you're talking
I
about,
think part of it is a very effective corporate strategy by corporations who are not great.
Yeah.
Corporations in general are shit.
One corporation in particular.
I mean, a big part of it's copyright and laws. So it is like, I think it's a totally legitimate thing that it no longer, you don't have like stars of movies because it takes so much to make these movies. They all have to be giant tentpole films. It seems to me like the only area where people really kind of break out and you'll think about the stars of a show is on TV. Like you'll know TV stars and then you'll follow and watch them on other things. Like everyone talks about Jennifer Coolidge on The White Lotus.
White Lotus, yeah.
But if there's a movie, I might not see it. I might not know about it. It seems to me like what used to be going to the movie theater is just turned into watching TV shows a lot. Like it's really changed. I don't know if you guys feel this way, but for me, I watch this on a small screen. I wish I had been able to see it with a large audience.
Likewise.
Because it's like comedy or like horror. Like you want an audience to see them.
So there's a theater here in Chicago called the Music Box. Shannon and I go there pretty regularly. It's an old theater, 95 years old or something. Some months back, they played RRR with the director in attendance.
Oh shit! And you did not go.
And I wish I could have, but it just didn't work out. And also, I think the tickets got snapped up pretty goddamn fast.
Yeah.
That particular showing was where the director announced they were making a sequel to this movie.
Are they? I heard otherwise.
No, it was at the Music Box where he announced.
What is the sequel gonna be?
Whatever they want it to be. Whatever they want it to be.
It's just okay. It's just like there's like a period of time. Like this was set during the period of time they're off the books. There's like not known history about them. That's fine. It's fine. I'm sure I don't know enough about it. I'm sure there's an exciting story they'll be able to tell.
Yeah. Well, look, the talent's there. I mean, it's obviously this guy's got a pretty unique take on action sequences in that it's that he will throw physics and everything with reckless abandon.
And it feels like the Matrix.
The action sequences...
Yeah,
the action sequences. I think the action sequences and the dance sequences.
I know
are
it's not
stellar.
It's not going to
They're
be.
really well done.
I know I'm not going to make any fans on this podcast by making this comparison, but it reminded me a lot of the action reminded me of the 300. The Zack Snyder sort of slow motion shit. Like that.
Yeah.
It very much. I got.
I don't hate Zack Snyder's directorial or choreography or anything like that in terms of action. The reason I hate 300 is because it's a fascist fucking movie.
Yeah, it's a piece of shit, and Frank Miller's an asshole. Like I hear that, but even so, I wasn't. Even when 300 came out, I wasn't terribly that aesthetic didn't totally jive me.
I agree with you all. I agree with you all.
Yeah, I think Zack Snyder has. well, we'll save the Zack Snyder discussion. One day, maybe we'll cover a Zack Snyder movie, and I'll unload about how
we should watch the Owl movie someday.
I have problems with that.
Well, it's Sucker Punch, and
oh God,
I have problems with him as I should say, I have problems with him as an artist, and not so much as a human being. But we'll leave it at that for now.
Yeah, sure. Anyway, that's the sort of overly artistic point of view with his action sequences, which is it's an aesthetic. So I mean, that's why I think I'm with Borif that like I've never heard anybody say a bad thing about this movie, and I did enjoy it, but it didn't necessarily like pluck the strings that I would have, that I felt like everybody else seems to be going on, and like, not that, and again, you put a musical dance sequence in a movie, I'm usually the first one to start looking at my phone, but I stand with the consensus here. That was well done. Very well done.
I should also note, while I'm talking about how the director was a big deal in India, he's like the biggest director in India right now. There is, at that last dance sequence, you might see a gray-haired sort of middle-aged man pop up in the middle of the sequence.
Yeah,
that
Chris
is
and
the
I
director.
That. Yeah, we mentioned that. Yeah, everybody shows up. It's a big. That's the kind of fun part about the Indian movies when they end with that, because it is basically just like their rap party, right? That's how they just get down and have a good time.
It's the Mamma Mia 2, Here We Go Again approach, where it ends with a big fucking dance sequence.
Oh man, yeah, I think the dance sequences really helped. I mean, it is like a 3-hour movie, so it was like beyond the action, like with all the action happening.
They do have an intermission,
comedy,
so
with the intermission, the thing is that if you see too much action and you see too much of the other stuff, you kind of fall asleep. And in this, it's like, okay, we're gonna have a dance sequence, and then it's like your brain resets in the middle of the movie, and you're like, oh, okay, we're still watching the movie, we're having fun again.
They jump between genres very. It's like a rom-com for a while. But yeah, I watched it over 2 nights. The second night, tune out government agencies. We had some small amount of mushrooms and finished the movie that way.
That's a wild way to watch this.
Not a ton, just a little bit, and it was a lot of fun. We had a great time.
One of these things, we're watching this movie, it's exciting, it's fun, but it also has a lot of that imagery in it, which would probably play differently to an audience that was actually in that country. So that's one of the things that people talked about as being potentially something that we're kind of like non-critically taking in, because we're not seeing it, because, it's like, oh, he's got a bow now, he looks like a badass. We don't really have the context of, oh, he's Rama and he's killing the British. And that is all to say, I still 100% fuck the British. Like, I don't want to make this sound like I'm making a political statement beyond just, I've heard something vaguely about this. There's a guy named Josh Willems who did a whole YouTube show about this. And he had someone who's from that country come in and like fact checked what he was saying. He was just really positive about the movie. He was like, just very forthcoming with how much he loved it. I didn't have a stronger reaction as that. But, it's a fun movie. Everyone likes it so much, though, it makes me wonder if maybe I don't like movies that much anymore.
It's just like, maybe it's just the type of movie, like I get that this was a fun thrill ride and a lot of, like it gets, you're entertained the whole time, which is tough to do in a 3-hour span. So like, and it's a visual marvel. Like it looks great and all of it, it's very arresting. But in the end, I'm kind of with you, Borf. In the end, I was like, well, I saw it and I can say I saw it. Like it didn't resonate with me as much, and maybe I do hate movies. Maybe I've always hated movies. I don't know.
Like I said, the director was deeply upset with Netflix for only releasing the Hindi version. This is a Tollywood movie, not a Bollywood movie. Bollywood is much more Hindu than Tollywood, which is a bit more diverse.
It's true, and that's like they did get the original people to do the dubbing, and a lot of the English people are just speaking English, so like there's not a lot of in there. But then when I notice, if you watch it on Netflix and you start to figure out that like, oh right, there is different languages being spoken, and you are hearing that language, but they are talking to each other while they're like, he just said this. I'm like, well, of course he did. He's right there. So like you get it. You had to kind of puzzle it out in your brain.
And it's
I'd like to just quickly say I had a incredibly strange experience watching this because of the language thing, because I think I saw it in the original language. However, whenever someone started speaking English, they had dubbing. So
Interesting.
Ray Winston, you could still hear him talking, but it was just like when you watch a documentary. Ray Stevenson, yeah. It was funny because he was like talking, and it felt like I was watching a documentary where they like have a person speaking a native language and then they overdub them. But in this case, it was reversed. So I kept having to like listen behind the dubbing to be like, "What's he say? Oh, just I'm a racist asshole. Okay, I got it." And it was very hard to like. Thankfully, they were very.
But I should say, it's worth noting that it is common in Tollywood, which is actually becoming bigger than Bollywood now in Indian culture. Like a lot of the biggest blockbusters have been Tollywood movies. They do generally film every dialogue scene in a few different languages. They have the actors perform each scene multiple times in different languages for different releases in different areas, which is, I think kind of an interesting, I don't have much more to say about it than that, but it is, I think, a point of interest that, they take the extra effort to do that on almost every production.
No wonder the movie took 2 years.
They have also COVID. They have a ton of local languages.
Yeah, let's not forget that.
Yeah. There's
so many studios in India. It's not just Bollywood and Tollywood. There's like
those Collywood,
a dozen. Or
and they're all something wood is the Ollywood. Like it's always like some letter Ollywood. Like the only other film that I was thinking of while watching this is a movie called The Terrorist from 1996, and it's from Collywood, and it's a Tamil film, and it was interesting because it was all about a suicide bomber who was coming through training, and it's sort of structured around almost like a Thumbelina story, where she starts off and then she's pregnant and she's going through it, and it kind of was the lead up to, and it was based, I believe, around a bombing that happened with one of the Gandhis, like a suicide bomber. And it was her like leading up to the end, and the big question in the whole movie was like, is she gonna do it or is she not gonna do it, because she's pregnant, and she met a bunch of people along the way trying to get to her location to commit the suicide bombing. That film, completely straight, not fun. Like it was like very like semi neo-realist, so that was interesting to compare that to this. I don't know if you guys have ever seen it or if you ever might see it. But it's a good movie from what I remember.
I'd have to look back.
Yeah.
I'm not all that familiar with Indian film. I'm gonna throw that out there. Shouldn't shock anybody, but it's true.
I'll be realistic.
This is
I don't
maybe one of 3 that I've seen, and I don't count Slumdog Millionaire. That's just
that's not an Indian film. It was directed by a British man.
That's very true.
Yeah.
And stars a British actor.
That's right. Yeah. But they're borrowing from that aesthetic. So that doesn't count, but that's the kind of aesthetic that I have seen. Other than, I've seen like crappy Indian like YouTube videos of Spider-Man, I guess, from like the
stuff that
70s
gets
and shit.
memed.
Yeah, right. It's really great to watch. I love that stuff. So yeah, I'm very, a cultural sort of heathen when it comes to this kind of stuff. I'm more from Asian film. I'm a little bit more familiar with them than Indian film. So, but I know what to expect. Like I know that like there's an element for everyone I've seen. There's a song at the end of it. Like that I know that they usually have a song and dance sequence at the end of it.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, like I don't know Indian film, but I also know that there are a lot of varieties in genre, and like it's not like every Indian film has a song at the end. There are like Indian movies. Sounds a little redundant, but there's like all kinds of like they're not all big bombast, and they don't all have dance
Yeah.
numbers. There's tons of small budget or different genre Indian movies that are not.
Well,
and a rich
I mean,
history,
one of the memes that didn't happen in this, like a common thing that happens in Indian movies, like big productions, is there's always a dance sequence on a train, because it's a very, very common type of public transportation when you're traveling long distances there. So a lot of movies involve train dance sequences. It's just, just where you happen to be. It's an excuse to drive around or get from one location to another. A lot of dialogue sequences happen on trains. That's about the only thing that normally shows up that specifically did not happen in this. And I was like, okay, that's just a common thing that I've seen in other films.
I think this film is effective in that it made me look up these two men a little bit. So like that's kind of neat. And it, when you're presenting them in such a mythical way that this movie is doing, I think it's kind of, the fact that they resemble some sort of deity at the end doesn't really surprise me, because they've been acting like a deity the whole movie. You saw the guy beat up 400 people, right?
Yeah,
like that,
sure.
like that's, everybody, like I said, is a remarkable badass. And everybody knows the dance steps and the words like that. It's magic. So it's myth building with this movie, and it's kind of building, and that's why the plot, when Zach says at the beginning here, when he was talking about like how like 10-minute sequences are relatively minuscule as far as plot moving along, but they're really not, because every piece kind of matters. And even the kind of time shift that it does in the middle of the movie, the act break where you learn about Raj's past, I usually hate it I usually don't like it when movies do that a lot. I'm not going to get all Ben Shapiro glass onion shit, which is stupid. But like it's usually kind of a fake out. But this one felt earned, because there's I think a crucial scene with, Ram has like a girlfriend back in his village or whatever that's like waiting for him. I think that got brushed over in the synopsis.
Yeah, I did. She's the one who reveals his backstory to be
right and that moment was very powerful. And I think there was a song in there that he started to sing along to it, and that kind of, I thought that was very good. And normally I'm kind of with Borf, where I'm kind of allergic to that, but that I was like, oh, that was satisfying. And learning new information informs you as a audience member, and especially when you're doing it with myths like this, when you're doing it with such big figures doing big things. So to scale it down that small, kind of humanizes it a little bit when everybody is remarkably inhuman.
I didn't think about this beforehand, but from the perspective of an audience member in India, who maybe knows about these two as historical figures, it's a strange feint to have Raj appear for most of the movie to be a hardcore colonialist, if the audience knows this person as a historical figure who was deeply anti-colonialist. From a Western audience who like doesn't know these people, maybe that's like an effective like switch where you reveal his backstory, and it's like, okay, this guy is actually working inside the system to destroy it. But presumably an Indian audience would be like, well, we know this man is against the British Empire.
They might have just been waiting for the switch at that point. We're like, okay, we know he's going to turn good at some point. But
we'll have Malcolm X like arrests Martin Luther King as a cop.
Oh, jeez.
It would probably be the other way around, I think.
Yeah, that's probably true. But anyway,
actually, I have a question that made me think of something. So, does this movie have one protagonist or two?
Two, I would say. Yeah.
I'm gonna go with two.
And actually, this is a question that I know. Not to get ahead of ourselves, the movie we talk about next time This is something that when I was in high school, I tried to write a hero's journey essay about the movie we're talking about next time. And I was like, well, who's the protagonist of this film? So I'm curious to talk about that then too. But yeah,
Okay. In this one, I'd say it's both because of the shift in expository character motivation. You know, like, I think that's what makes it. Like, if it was just a buddy film, if Raj wasn't the historical figure that he was, and he was just like friends with this dude and felt bad about it, like, you would be pretty clear that Beam is the main guy. Koroman's our protagonist. He's our antagonist, but even in an antagonistic relationship, they could still come together at the end and have an understanding. But because of that little intermission, I must say that they're both protagonists.
Yeah, I feel the same way, because it was one of those things that since these are two enormous stars, it was one of these things where I'm like, yeah, I don't think either star is going to be underneath the other one. It's sort of like when they had the Rock and Jason Statham squaring
Paul
off.
Newman, Robert Redford, buddy.
Yeah, it's like, well, they had fight scenes in whatever that movie was with those two dudes where they couldn't lose to each other, but they had to have a fight scene. So every fight scene between The Rock and Jason Statham ends in some sort of a draw. Because they're dicks, but in this case, it's a very different thing.
Rock's a professional wrestler, okay? He only puts people over for the title. You know?
Well, yeah, but in this one,
but The Rock is now. The Rock refuses to allow his characters to die in any movie he's in now. Like, there was a time where he was starting out, and he would like in The Other Guys, his character dies in a fucking ridiculous way. But now he refuses. Like, he won't lose. Like, he's full egomaniac.
He's humorless. Yeah.
He finally pulled a Hulk Hogan, who in the end of his career just wouldn't put over, like, that's not gonna work for me, boss man. You know, like,
That's why everybody's into like Dave Bautista now, because he like has a sense of humor about himself, at least for the time being.
Sure. Yeah. You know, time makes fools of us
He's
all.
also very liberal.
Yeah. Sure.
He is. Yeah.
You know, and is done with Marvel. He's moving on. He's gonna try to be a serious actor, which, you know, I'm not talking shit about The Rock. Rock's fine. He's like, as a performer, he's fine. But yeah, it is really funny that he just won't lose.
Okay, yeah.
That's pretty funny.
He's got his one
the
mode.
Hulk Hogan lives again. You know. So yeah, I think that. So I guess we could get to final thoughts on this. We don't need to make it as long.
Yeah.
So
it was just a very difficult, like, there's so much, and part of the reason I suggest this movie before we get to final thoughts is, like, I thought it would be a good, fun, jolly good time to watch this movie, and B, we are people of folly, and I thought it would be interesting to talk about a part of a big world of film culture that we, in neither iteration of this show, have ever discussed in any regard.
Sure.
And
to be fair, this only scratches the surface. You know.
Oh,
like,
for sure.
Only,
this
is
the biggest. This
yeah.
is the most broad strokes opening salvo.
Sure.
Like, you know.
This is like I've seen Titanic, therefore I get Western film.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree. So is this final thoughts? I figure I'll just...
Now we'll go into final thoughts.
Sure, final thoughts.
I thought this one was fascinating. I'm not going to say it was my favorite thing in the same way that everybody else is super intense about it. I do love the fact that a lot of it was practical. It definitely had a lot of very interesting things in it. I would say the thing that jumped out at me the most is that it was fascinating to see sort of a hoorah patriotism movie for a different country. Like, usually when I'm seeing something in the US, I don't want to say that I'm anti-American, but I do have kind of a bile reaction whenever there's like someone crying and there's a flag waving, or, you know, watching Pearl Harbor.
The Gipper says to keep it together.
Oh my God. It makes me want to just like play a
But
villain
I'll say
in something.
this about that, Chris. if you did have a movie that was like a U.S. movie that took place during the American Revolution and the villains were the Brits, you'd be like, well, obviously, fuck the Brits.
I mean, we had that, The Patriot. And I gotta be honest, I hated that one too. But it's funny you say that, because it reminds me of a movie that I think had a great deal of patriotism jammed into a foreign story, which was Braveheart. Braveheart, to me, felt very much like fuck big government, and it was very much sort of like, it's hard to describe, but it felt like sort of how the Christian sense of being like victimhood, like the war on Christmas, but it felt like that.
There's
towards...
a common thread between those two movies. I can't put my finger on it.
The other one that you can usually get away with in an American hoorah movie is if you're fighting the Nazis, like, it's the Nazis.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, it's like the British Nazis. I'll have to show. The thing is,
even the British look okay next to the fucking Nazis.
Well, I'm gonna have to. There's an old animated like adult animation from the 2005 to 2006 or 7 era that was like a bunch of like short stories put together. No one really knows about it. It's called Monkey Dust. I will see if I can find a clip to send you guys. I might have shown you, Carlson.
Yeah, I was about
to
say, boy, that rings a bell.
Yeah,
I think like in the nascent days of like DVD burning and stuff.
Yep,
okay,
yeah. They had some funny stuff in there that was specifically this, like where it was essentially American hoorah, but jammed into other cultures, and it's hilarious to watch for those sequences because it'll be things like, Saladin, and it'll be like the Middle East. But everything will be fucking Americans, and when Saladin shows up, it's someone who's plainly supposed to be like Hitler, and they're like calling him the Fuhrer Saladin and stuff like that, and it's very cringy in terms of politics now. But a lot of hoorah patriotism seen through something else. Anyway, final thoughts on this. It's a good time. You can go ahead and see it. It's going to be a breeze. You're going to watch the whole thing very quickly. As far as 3 hours goes, that's fine.
Final addendum. I'll say this: the hoorah patriotism. I think it's actually most akin, because this is also a very fantastical, silly thing where the villains are archetypical and the hero is very American. Indiana Jones.
Yeah, fair enough.
That's
fair
the
enough.
comparison.
Fair enough.
And you fucking hate those villains because it's fucking Nazis.
That's right. Yeah, easy enough. We'll just ignore Temple of Doom. Anyway, I think that. So I agree with Borif that like I'm glad I watched it because it's in the conversation now, even in Western audiences. It's in the zeitgeist. So I always feel like being in the know, though I am typically, sometimes for stupid reasons, like tend to go against the consensus. But as I said earlier, in this case, I must side with the consensus because it's a good movie. It was very enjoyable, even though, again, my brain, my instincts, my sort of taste tried to reject it. It couldn't, because it was just too much damn fun. Regarding the sort of action sequence heavy and way over the top Matrix-y style of actions that's been sort of prominent, that you don't see as much anymore in Western movies that often, which unless it's a fucking Snyder film, like you really don't see the kind of slow motion, fast motion sort of thing, or even like the scene where he flips the fucking motorcycle up and like jams an arrow bullseye on it, like that just way over the top stuff. You really only kind of, I remember it strongly in my movies as like Westerns, right? Like I'm thinking of like, Magnificent Seven or whatever, and like everybody's got their own kind of like badass thing to do. In this film, everybody's like just a badass. It's just like it's remarkable. It's an interesting take that I wish that that Western audiences would sort of hijack in a way, to kind of we all know it's a movie. We're all aware that this is a movie. Why are you limiting yourself to just, as Zach said, just sort of like constantly reminding us, like, we know it's a movie, you know, like, kind of let it go. Let the fantasy fly. Like, let it, and that's what I kind of appreciated about this movie, and I could see where he kind of, like, was affected a little bit by Inglourious Basterds, because I really like that movie from Tarantino because it is just unabashedly what it is. It doesn't sidestep, it doesn't try to apologize, it doesn't even try to explain, it just goes for it. So in that respect, I've got to say, very well done. It's better than Inglourious Basterds because of the genuine friendship that you feel and the explicit joy that everybody feels, and it's very hammered home by the last scene and the last song. But that dance sequence, I mean, I've got to even show it to my mom, who's much more of a musical theater fan than I'll ever be, because it's up there with like some of the best dance sequences you've seen on film. It's up there. It's fucking good. So like even a crusty old cynic like me could be like, oh, well done. So yeah, well done. Thanks, Zach. And I'm glad we watched it, because I can't see myself making up an excuse to watch this movie, considering the length, where I'd be like, do I really want to fucking sit through 3 hours? So I'm glad I had to do it, because it was worth the ride. So thanks, Zach.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with it too. I think that, well, also speaking to the dance sequences, it's not, or the action sequences, I should say, it's, though this applies to the dance sequences, I have a long-held belief that a good dance sequence and a good action sequence have more in common than they have different. It's all about the choreography.
1000%.
But the thing is, yeah, I think we're in a period right now with most major blockbuster releases where so much of action is CGI laser beam shit, and it's so boring. It's so can I say so a few more times? So boring to just see people flying around and shooting laser beams in CG at each other. I can't give a fuck.
You throw a CG tiger at it, we're in. I'm in.
But there is genuine choreography here. Like these people, there's a mixture of like that Zack Snyder fast motion, slow motion, and there is CG, but there's also real like fight choreography in these scenes. And just like the dance scenes where there's real dance choreography, like you can feel the difference.
Well, it also goes to a crescendo. Like, it's one of those nice things. The rhythm, it's a rhythm-based sequence. I really agree with that sense that action and dance have a lot in common. It's a rhythm-based sequence, and a lot of American films, for some reason, have to do, like, instant gratification. They don't build to a big moment. They're like, we're going to have a big moment immediately, and then you just start not caring, because it's like, well, there was a giant punch. There's another giant punch. They're blowing up the moon. They're throwing cars at each other. In this, they start by throwing tigers around, and they end by throwing motorcycles around. That's the classic build arc.
they start with just people, right? He's just throwing people against other people, and then it's the animals, and then it's vehicles. So,
exactly.
When a villain gets killed, it's like, that guy got fucking killed hard.
Yeah.
Like, which is just fun sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, you want the villain screaming no while half wrapped in barbed wire.
It's the Fury Road death. You gotta have a big death for a big baddie. It's not okay to just zone it out and do a simple one. You gotta make it big.
And that's my problem with fucking, another tangent, but like, Disney, let us have a fucking villain. Can we have a fucking villain who we hate? Anyway, I'm a big fan of a great villain.
We're gonna wind up watching a Marvel film because you've talked about this so goddamn much.
One of these days I'm gonna win, and we're gonna do a round where it's like favorite film villains, because villains are one of my favorite things in fiction. I think it was a lot of fun. Like, the action sequences there were CG and all that stuff in there, and they were building, and the slow motion let you see what was going on very clearly when they had these complicated maneuvers, which is important. Like, understanding is a big part of a good action sequence. And it was never like something that was like, what the fuck is going on? There's just shit all over the screen.
Batman
it was
Begins.
understood.
Yeah.
But
There was
also
just no
a
wide
lot of
shots in
modern
that movie.
blockbusters. I'm not just talking about Marvel. I'm talking about like a lot of big CG blockbusters. Sometimes there's so much shit flying around. You're like, I don't know what the fuck is supposed to be going on here. Like cause and effect and all that stuff is very important in directing action. But yeah, I enjoyed it quite a lot. I think it's a good movie. I love to see different different areas of the world get more recognition in our corner of the world. You know, the same thing as when Parasite won Best Picture a few years ago. Like, I think that to counteract what I say about Marvel, I think that the problem with Marvel is it's closing in what film can be for so many people to a very, 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 very small bubble of what is acceptable filmmaking. And things like this and things like Parasite give me hope because they expand it. They make it so that film doesn't have to be this one fucking thing. And that always gives me hope.
Yeah, it's a lot like kind of reminded me of right when The Matrix came out. You guys remember Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon?
Yeah.
Because I always felt like that was a response to The Matrix, because The Matrix got such accolades about their wire work and stuff. But there was still an explanation to why they're like that. When you watch a movie like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon as a Matrix audience, you're like, well, why can they jump through trees and stuff like that? They don't care. They just do it. Shut up and watch the movie.
Aren't they?
That's sort of what
produced
I
by
would.
Weinstein?
Well, it was distributed by Weinstein. I don't think he
Okay.
produced. He might have. I don't know. But yeah, I mean,
I don't
back
think
in
he
the
produced.
late '90s, early 2000s,
Chinese production.
There's no way that he didn't have his fingers in fucking Senate somehow.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of what RRR reminded me of. It's like the world's response to Marvel.
I mean, the good
But,
news
you know,
is if you like
here's
it,
the thing.
we're gonna see a lot more Indian films now. This one was extremely popular, so we're gonna definitely get the sequel.
Yeah.
We'll probably get the other films that Rajmouli has put out. It ain't a bad thing to see more.
It's another like quadrilogy, I think. He's got a series or something.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know if is he going to hold. I don't know if he's going to hold James Cameron Avatar with it.
I think
Well,
it's
I
previous
don't know.
stuff.
He did that with his previous stuff. He certainly.
Oh, I see.
So yeah. So anyway, yeah, I kind of agree with Zach that well done, and it does seem like this movie is.
And
hitting a nerve
these were
with
very
even
charismatic.
Western
I
audience.
thought the
Yeah.
really good director, charismatic actors.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, I could safely.
I get why they're stars.
I could safely recommend this movie to my mother, and she won't be bored, and she won't be off-put by all the action because it's just so over the top and ridiculous. Even my dad might enjoy it. They might not stay awake through the whole thing, but you know they'll watch it in bits.
Stop at the interval. Interval.
There's a. All right. Well, that concludes RRR. It was a lot of fun, and that was Zach's reward. But now it's time to get the nose back to the grindstone, boys.
Also my
time
pick.
to get down. Yeah, Zach's. Yeah, he's.
This has
we're
been a
going.
Zach trilogy, is what's
Yeah,
been going
that's
on
right.
lately.
Yeah. It's ZZZ. So we will.
And
be-
also a story about a friendship.
That's that's right. That's right. And an oppressive environment. Double trouble. Anyway, so we are next episode. We will be starting Zach Powers themes of movies that are based off of previously written material that you yourself have read, and we will be doing Frank Darabont's classic Shawshank Redemption. Seen it a bunch of times. Excited to watch it again. Roger Deakins rocks. Nothing not to like. So excited to watch that. So that'll be a fun theme to start. So tune in next time. That's what we will be doing with Shawshank Redemption. So with that in mind, please join us next time. And I have been Russell Carlson. I have been joined by Chris Boyle.
Load! Shoot! I remember 2 lines in the movie.
And I've also been joined by Zach Powers.
Whip him with this nail whip.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
no,
Passion
the
of the
whip was
Christ.
bad. We need it real bad. Everything's so extreme in this movie. Like, you know, I could just jump off the motorcycle. What if I use the motorcycle as a projectile with my bare hands? Anyway, As we always say on the Movie Trap, Diane Ladd is too young to play Chevy Chase's mom. We'll see you next time.
Movie Trap promise.
One bastard did this. And all of you.
ఒక్కడిదంతా చేస్తుంటే మీరంతా కలిసి కూడా ఏం చేయలేకపోయారు.
Shame on you.
సిగ్గుందా?
I appreciate
నువ్వు
you.
నచ్చావు యంగ్ మ్యాన్. నీ సర్వీస్కి తగిన ఫలితం లభిస్తుంది.
Plans be duly noted.
థ్యాంక్ యూ సార్.
I want this
వాడికి పడే శిక్ష ఎలా ఉండాలంటే బ్రిటిష్ వాళ్ళ వంక కన్నెత్తి చూడాలన్న ఆలోచన కూడా ఇంకెవరికి రాకూడదు.
British.
నేనది చూడాలి. వాడి ఒంట్లోంచి రక్తం కారడం కళ్ళారా చూడాలి.
And so you shall.
చూస్తావుగా, వాడికి మన పద్ధతులు ఎలా ఉంటాయో రుచి చూపిస్తాను. ఆఫీసర్, నీ కొరడా దెబ్బలకి వాడి ఒళ్ళు చీరిపోవాలి. మోకాళ్ల మీద పడి తప్పొప్పుకొని క్షమించమని ఏడ్చేదాకా ఆపద్దు.
Begs for mercy.
సార్